one discipline of physical training completely redefines what strength and movement are. And you can learn starting today with 5 of the foundational movements, regardless of age or level. And training this way will transform your health and strength for life. The geniuses who invented it are completely undervalued. Breakdancers and especially power movers developed an art of movement that is both therapeutic in nature at the one end of the spectrum, all the way to the most elite strength, flexibility, and skill you'll see in the world at the other end. Bar none. No pun intended. Get it? Because calisthenics needs a bar. My own story involves this training, including the emphatic reacquisition of flares after a torn bicep and surgery.
Hey, what's up, guys? So it's been 6 months, actually 7 months since I've done a flare. It's been 6 months since the actual surgery where they reattached my bicep to my bone. And I've really missed being able to do them. And so tonight, it's been 6 months and a day, I believe, since my surgery, and I'm gonna give flares a try. I started off with a low squat, and I did middle splits. Then there's this leg pulse. I did reps of those. And right after surgery, I was about right here. My arms were bent, and I had to slowly work down. So I've made a lot of progress in terms of mobility. I practiced a lot of spindles, like that, handstand circles. So here we go. I've done a few singles of the flare, and we're gonna give 3 a try. All right. That felt good.
They also force adaptation for strength, flexibility, mobility, and even mindset.
I want you to push and then keep this leg up high. And I want you to get your left foot on the ground first. Okay? So watch this foot. All right?
You go right ahead.
And the story begins in the burned out buildings of the Bronx, where mere teenagers transformed their minds and bodies as they trained in tribes of crews, battling for supremacy and really battling for their own transformation. And this story continues generations later in all parts of the world, and a major part of my own backstory. Completely opposite of a silly sideshow spectacle, it is life transformative, and many breakdancers, or as they dub themselves, B-boys and B-girls, have paved the path of awe-inspiring movement that encapsulates, dare I say, some of the most advanced and complex human strength, flexibility, mobility, and skill. Not only is human movement more advanced than any other created life form, but this form of human movement sits another rung up the ladder. And being strong enough, flexible enough, and mentally sharp enough to execute even a small number of these techniques will prepare a person for so much more in life than they realize. And beginning with these 5 moves will build your foundation to become stronger, more flexible, and more resilient than ever. No exaggeration. They also carry over to every other field of training, like martial arts, jiu-jitsu, and even aspects of daily life, because they train omnidirectional awareness as they each spin and twist on each axis of direction, whereas most training is static or done in planar sets and reps. Each move is assembled like building blocks through connected handstand shapes. The flare is the single best bodyweight skill physiologically and biomechanically. It requires insane core strength, but also the flexibility, mobility, upper body power, and yes, even leg strength, all combined, which no other form of fitness builds. And let's just throw the word fitness in the wasteland, since this is way beyond. To build a flare, one must build core strength in the rectus abdominis, transverse abdominis, iliacus, and psoas in order to lift oneself into the planche and V positions. And one must also have the tricep, pectoral, and deltoid strength to be able to shift between low one-arm handstands on both sides. And even though it's seen in gymnastics, a young breakdancer in Brazil still holds the world record. The flare can be extremely frustrating to learn, but it is the best bodyweight exercise and will rewire your entire body and mind. Even if you're just starting with around the worlds like demonstrated here. 3,000 repetitions of around the world, 3,000 repetitions of singles, and then you're off to multiple. The lifelong benefits of learning flares as well as the following power moves are simply priceless. The second of these power moves is the windmill. This is probably one of the most famous moves. It is done with mastery by breakdancers, including dozens of different variations. And to go even deeper than breakdancing, the roots of windmills go all the way back to Chinese martial arts like Shaolin and Wushu. They require tremendous strength in the obliques and core, as well as leg mobility and upper body strength. Windmills too require rewiring the body and mind through a few thousand repetitions to build the overall physical strength. The third power move is the handstand circle. Like we discussed elsewhere, handstands should be basic to human movement, and they in fact are the foundation for strength training, even for the very best of weightlifters. They're in gymnastics, but they are not to be monopolized by gymnastics. Everyone from beginner athletes to circus performers to b-boys use handstands, and they take your upper body and core to an entirely different level of strength and mobility. While not as frustrating to learn as flares, entering into them properly requires just as much work to make them smooth. Imagine shoulders and trapezius that can support your entire body, allowing you to even briefly enter in one-arm handstands with each step carving the circumference of the handstand circle. The fourth move, the swipe, taps the foot to the ground for each turn. So this is probably one of the easiest to learn for the absolute novice, and the reward for learning them is immense. Although this can be done close to the ground, a true swipe will raise the hips high enough to be able to pop back up into the handstand circle. This power move requires tremendous twisting strength from the obliques, as well as ballistic strength through the entire torso, as well as the arms and legs. Just like flares and windmills, this can be done for high volume with rest in between or high-level cardio training that nothing else can match. Now imagine carving that circle through the air. This is the next power move. Historically, it was first called an air track because it was similar in mechanics to the track, a head spin done around the circumference of the head. As far back as 1984, the first air track ever done was by a breakdancer, far before it was ever even considered to be included in the gymnastics code of points at an extremely high level of D value. Through the decades, the air track went through many evolutions, also being referred to as the air swipe and air flare, with an immense number of variations, as can be seen in a different video we made here, and which we will discuss in future videos. This is the magic of power movers, their imagination and relentless training to discover what the human body can do, and pushing their own bodies to the limits and beyond. The biomechanics and technique differ from person to person, depending on things like arm to leg to torso ratio, as well as shoulder structure, with three main shoulder angles of approach: the open or hollow back form, the neutral or pike form, and closed or planche form. As such, the air track is the quintessential strength skill of hand balancing, and all of bodyweight strength for that matter. It is the culmination of flexibility, mobility, and strength through the entire structure of the shoulder, and requires immense flexibility and strength through the entire spine and torso, no matter what angle at which it is executed. Power moves training is one of the highest levels of strength and skill attainable, and increases in difficulty exponentially as a person increases in size, both in height and weight. Its sheer complexity in terms of anatomy and biomechanics, as well as its contribution to overall mobility of the human body, puts it at a level of great importance even for rehabilitation and physical therapy, which was one of my main tools for rehabilitation of my back and my torn bicep. And that's why we make power moves a priority and one of the 5 staple elements inside Powerbatics for those we train. And in learning these, you'll develop some of the highest levels of strength, skill, and confidence you've ever known. Subscribe and opt in so you don't miss any of the trainings all of our top students receive. See you in the next video and in training soon.